The cold wakes you before light does. Your breath makes clouds in the darkness. The straw beneath you has compressed through the night. Your sister's elbow presses into your ribs. Your father is already moving near the door. No one speaks yet. This is how every day begins. In darkness, in cold, in the space between sleep and the field. Your father's voice comes low, not to you, not to your mother. The words are older than his voice. Our Father, who art. The shape of them worn smooth by repetition. You have heard these words every morning of your life. You will hear them every morning until you die. Your mother joins, then your sister. The prayer moves through the room like breath. You do not think about the words, your mouth knows them. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. They are the first sounds you make each day, before food, before fire, before light. No one taught you why. You learned by hearing, by waking to these words in darkness, winter and summer, hunger and harvest. The prayer is not a choice, it is the beginning. Outside, the sky is still black. The village is silent, but the day is already pulling you forward. Your father crosses himself. Your mother touches her forehead, her chest. You do the same. The gesture is automatic, protective, a shield made of motion and old words. There are no books here, no writing. The prayer exists only in mouths and memory. If you forget, it is gone, but you will not forget. Your children will wake to these words, their children after them. You rise. The floor is dirt, hard and cold. Your feet know it without light. You pull the thin blanket tighter around your shoulders and move toward the door. The work is waiting. The field does not care if you have prayed, but you have. You always do. Because the day is long, because the Lord is harsh, because sickness comes without warning, because winter is cold and hunger is real, and you do not know what the hours will bring. The prayer does not change any of this, but it is the first thing, it is the only thing you can be certain of before the sun rises. The door opens. The darkness outside is the same as the darkness within. But now you are standing, now you are awake, now the day has begun. You have said the words, you will say them again tomorrow. Your mother touches the door frame before stepping outside. 3 times, always 3. She has done this since before you were born. Her mother did it. You do not ask why. You simply know that thresholds are dangerous, that crossing from shelter into open air requires protection. She murmurs something under her breath, not the Lord's Prayer, something else, older. The prayers you know are layered. Some came from the priest, some from your grandmother, some from women who gather near the well when the harvest fails. When your sister was sick last winter, your mother tied a knot in a strip of cloth and placed it under her pillow. She said a prayer to Saint Apollonia. Then she whispered words in a rhythm you did not recognize. The fever broke 3 days later. You do not know which prayer worked. Your mother does not know either, but she used both. In the church, the priest speaks of God, distant, all-seeing, the creator of heaven and earth. You repeat the words he teaches, Pater Noster, quies in celis. The Latin sounds heavy in your mouth. You do not understand all of it, but you trust it. Outside the church, you speak to saints. Saint Isidore when the plow breaks, Saint Bridget when the cow will not give milk, Saint Christopher before a journey. They feel closer than God. They were human once. They know what it is to be cold, to be hungry, to need help with small things. God decides whether you live or die. The saints decide whether the bread rises.
There are other protections. Your father makes the sign of the cross over the seed before planting. Your mother crosses herself when thunder rolls, before eating, before sleeping, before any task that might fail. Some gestures are not crosses. When a stranger passes on the road, your mother touches iron. When the night feels too dark, she leaves bread outside the door. For what she does not say, but it is always gone by morning. The priest does not speak of these things, but he does not forbid them either. He knows what you know, that the world is full of forces you cannot see, that protection must be gathered wherever it can be found. In 1347, during the Great Pestilence, villages across Christendom turned to both priest and healer. Church records from English manors show payments made to clergy for masses of protection. The same records show herbs burned at doorways, charms sewn into clothing, and invocations to saints whose names do not appear in any official liturgy. Faith and fear lived in the same house. They still do. You carry prayers like tools, each one for a different need. Some sharp and clean, learned from the priest. Some worn smooth by use, passed from mouth to ear across generations. When your mother kneels at night, she says the Ave Maria. Then she whispers a charm against nightmares. Then she touches the small carved figure she keeps wrapped in linen beneath the bed. You do not know what the figure represents. She has never told you, but her hands are careful when she touches it. The prayers do not always work. The cow still dies, the harvest still fails, sickness still comes. But the prayers are still said, because not saying them is worse, because the world is large and you are small, and there are too many ways to be hurt. You do not ask whether it is faith or fear that moves your lips. The line between them is too thin to see. You simply say the words, all of them, and hope that one will be heard. The handle of the hoe is smooth from use. Your hands know its weight before you lift it. You make the sign of the cross, then you begin. The earth is hard. It has not rained in 6 days. Each strike of the blade sends a jolt through your arms. You do not stop. Stopping does not make the field smaller. Prayer is woven into the work, not separate from it, not a pause before or after. It moves with your body. Your lips form words while your hands form rows. A short invocation when you enter the field, a crossed gesture over the first turned soil, a murmured saint's name when the tool slips or the ground resists. These are not long prayers. There is no time for long prayers. The sun moves whether you speak or not. Your father works 3 rows over. His lips move as he digs. You cannot hear the words, but you know them. The same ones he says every morning, the same ones his father said. Work is obedience. The priest says this. After the fall, man was cast from the garden. Now he must labor. The ground yields only through sweat and strain. This is God's order. You do not question it. The field must be worked. The question of why does not make the work easier. The rhythm becomes its own prayer. Strike, lift, step. Strike, lift, step. Your breath matches the motion. Your body learns the pattern and holds it. Hours pass this way. The sun rises higher. Your back begins to ache. You do not think about the ache. You think about the row, the next strike, the next step. Endurance is its own devotion. You do not name it this, but your body knows. To continue is to obey. To finish is to fulfill what has been asked of you. By the 13th century, agricultural labor was understood not merely as necessity, but as divine mandate. Manorial records from the period show peasants worked an average of 6 days per week, from dawn until the failing of light. Rest was prescribed on holy days. Work was prescribed on all others. The tools they used were simple: wood and iron, shaped by hand, repaired when broken, blessed when new. A hoe, a scythe, a plow, these were extensions of the body, and the body was an instrument of survival. You cross the bread before eating. Your mother has done this since you were small. The gesture is automatic, protective, a reminder that nothing is given without God's allowance. Even this small rest is bound by prayer. You eat quickly. There is more work before nightfall. When the light begins to soften, you lift your head. The field is not finished. It will not be finished tomorrow either, but today's portion is done. You cross yourself again, not in triumph, not in relief, simply because the day is ending and the gesture marks the end. Your father does the same. Then he shoulders his tool and turns toward home. You follow. Your hands are blistered, your shoulders are tight, but you do not think about this. You think about the next day, the next field, the next prayer before the next task. This is the shape of your life: work and prayer and work, bound so tightly that neither can exist without the other. You do not ask if this is faith. You only know that without it, the work would be unbearable, and the work must be born.
The bell rings across the fields. You stop mid-strike. Everyone stops. Your father, the men 3 rows over, the women gathering wood near the edge of the clearing. All of you turn toward the sound. It is time. The bell does not ask, it commands. 3 times each day it rings, morning, midday, and evening. You know the hours not by the sun, but by the sound. When the bell rings, you go, not because you wish to, because you must, because the priest expects it, because the Lord expects it, because everyone else is already walking. You wipe the dirt from your hands and follow your father toward the village. The church is the only stone building you know. It is larger than any house, taller, colder. When you step inside, the air changes. It is heavier, quieter. You take your place near the back. The floor is packed earth, same as your home, but here it feels different, harder, more permanent. The priest stands at the front. He wears robes you will never touch. He speaks words you do not fully understand. Latin, the language of God and Rome and men who read. You do not need to understand. You only need to be present, to kneel when others kneel, to stand when others stand, to murmur the responses you have learned by repetition. The Mass is long. Your knees ache against the ground. Your back stiffens. You do not shift. No one shifts. The priest raises his hands. He speaks the words of consecration. The bread becomes body. The wine becomes blood. You have been told this since childhood. You believe it because you have been told to believe it. You do not take communion. That is only for those who have confessed, for those the priest deems worthy. You watch from the back and say the prayers you know. By the 14th century, parish records show that Mass attendance was expected of all Christians. Failure to attend on holy days could result in fines or penance. In rural England, the church was often the largest structure for miles, capable of holding the entire village population. The liturgy was conducted in Latin. Few peasants understood more than fragments, but the ritual itself was understood. The gestures, the rhythm, the collective motion of standing, kneeling, crossing. Faith was not individual, it was communal, witnessed, enforced by presence. When the Mass ends, you file out with the others. No one speaks inside the church. Outside, voices return, low, brief.
discussing work, weather, the health of livestock. The bell rings again as you leave, a reminder that the day continues, that the fields are waiting. You cross yourself at the threshold, then you walk back toward the labor you left behind. The church holds the village together, not through love, not through choice, through routine, through fear of what happens to those who do not attend, through the knowledge that survival requires more than individual effort. You are part of something larger than yourself. You do not feel uplifted by this, you feel bound. But binding is its own form of protection. When the village gathers, you are not alone. When the priest speaks, you are not silent. When the bell rings, you are not forgotten. You do not ask if this is faith or obligation. The two have long since become the same thing.
The light is going. You can feel it more than see it. Your mother begins the evening prayers before the door is even closed. Her voice is urgent, not loud, but urgent. Night is coming, and night is dangerous. The darkness outside is complete. No street lamps, no moonlight tonight, just black. Inside, the fire gives only enough light to see faces. Shadows move on the walls. Your sister watches them. Your mother prays. Pater noster, quies in caelis. The same words as morning, but now they sound different, sharper, more necessary. At night, the world changes. What was familiar becomes strange. The road you walk by day becomes a place where travelers vanish. The woods at the edge of the field become a place where things move that are not animals. The priest speaks of demons, of spirits that hate the living, of the devil walking through the world seeking souls to devour. You do not doubt him. You have heard the stories. A man found dead at dawn, his face twisted in fear. A child who woke screaming and could not be calmed. A woman who walked into the woods and returned changed, speaking in a voice that was not hers. Your mother teaches you the prayers against these things, not in daylight, at night, when the need is real. A prayer to Saint Michael, who casts out demons. A prayer against sudden death, the kind that takes you before you can confess. A prayer for protection through the dark hours. She makes you repeat them until your mouth knows them without thought, because thought is too slow. If danger comes, the words must come first. The fear of hell is not abstract. It is as real as hunger. The priest describes it in detail. Fire that does not consume, torment that does not end, souls weeping in eternal darkness. You do not want to die, but more than that, you do not want to die unprepared, without confession, without absolution, with sin still on your soul. So you pray. Before sleep, you pray. You ask for protection through the night, for the chance to wake again, for mercy if you do not. Records from medieval England show that sudden death without time for last rites, was one of the most feared outcomes. Wills and chantry endowments frequently included provisions for prayers to protect against this fate. The bedtime prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep," originated in this period as a safeguard against dying unshriven. Night was not merely the absence of day, it was a threshold, a time when the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin. Your father closes the shutters, your mother checks the door twice. The fire is banked, but not extinguished. You do not sleep in complete darkness, that would be foolish. You lie down on the straw. Your sister is already murmuring her prayers. Your mother's voice continues, low and steady, a wall of words between your family and the night outside. You close your eyes, but you do not stop listening.
You listen for footsteps that should not be there, for voices that do not belong to the living, for the sound of something testing the door. The prayers continue. They are your armor, the only armor you have. You do not sleep easily. No one does, but eventually the exhaustion of the day overtakes the fear of the night. The prayers fade into silence, the fire dims to coals, and you wait for morning, because morning means you survived. Morning means the prayers worked, or morning means you were simply lucky. You do not ask which. You only know that when the cold wakes you before light, you will begin again, with the same words, the same gestures, the same hope that today they will be enough. No one wrote down your mother's prayers. No one recorded the words your father murmured in the fields. No chronicle mentions the gestures your grandmother made before crossing the threshold. They are gone, not because they did not matter, because no one thought to preserve them. You cannot write. Your parents cannot write. The priest can write, but he writes only what the church requires: baptisms, deaths, payments owed to the Lord. He does not write about the prayers said in darkness, about the charms tied in cloth, about the way your mother crosses herself before touching the bread. These things are ordinary, and the ordinary is not recorded. The prayers you say are the same prayers your grandparents said, and their grandparents before them, passed from mouth to ear, from parent to child, from one generation to the next. They have never changed, not because they are sacred, but because change requires questioning, and questioning requires time, and there is no time. You wake, you pray, you work, you pray, you sleep, you pray. This is the pattern. It has always been the pattern. In the 15th century, parish records across Europe show generations of families living, working, and dying within the same village boundaries. Birth and death registries list names without biographies. Families appear in record only when they owe tithes, commit infractions, or transfer land. The inner lives of these people, their fears, hopes, private devotions, were not considered worthy of documentation. History remembers kings, bishops, merchants, scholars. It does not remember the woman who whispered prayers over her sick child, the man who crossed himself before lifting his tools, the child who learned the Ave Maria by listening in the dark. Your faith did not alter the course of history. It did not alter the course of history. It did not build cathedrals or inspire movements. It simply allowed you to wake each morning and face the day. It gave you words when there was nothing else to say, gestures when there was nothing else to do, a rhythm when everything else was chaos. The prayers did not prevent hunger. They did not stop sickness. They did not make the Lord kinder or the winter shorter, but they made endurance possible. You will die as your parents died, in this village, in this field, without monument or memory. Your children will pray the same prayers, their children after them. The words will continue long after your name is forgotten. This is not tragedy. This is simply the way things are. Faith, for you, was never about glory. It was about survival, about endurance, about the small, repeated acts that held life together when everything else threatened to tear it apart. The sun rises again, as it always does. You wake in the cold. You say the words. You cross yourself. You step into the day. No one is watching. No one is recording. No one will remember. But you do it anyway. Because the field is waiting. Because your family is waking. Because the day must be faced, and the only way you know to face it is with the prayers you were given. This is your faith, quiet, unwitnessed, unremarked. It leaves no monument, but it carried you through, and perhaps that is enough. If this story reached you, let it reach others. Subscribe to walk with us through more forgotten lives. Leave a word in the comments. Tell us what you felt, what you saw. Share this with someone who listens closely. There are more stories waiting, more lives that left no record but deserve to be remembered. Stay with us. More is coming.